Namaste, I am Mukund Puranik from Pune. I love my Bharat and I'm in love with the glorious history of Bharat and I'm proud of its rich heritage. In this serial of history, I'll be talking on a very interesting subject, advanced centers of learning. Brothers and sisters, Nalanda was the ancient place of learning and arguably Bharat's greatest cultural heritage. To visit Nalanda, we need to board a train from Delhi and get down 50 miles from Patna at a place called Bhaktiyar. From Bhaktiyar, it is a brief and pleasant journey to Nalanda. And when you reach this hallowed place, you find how the magnificent temple of knowledge and wisdom was charred to the ground of barbarians. You find how millions of books were reduced to cinders. You find how thousands of scholars perish in the fire that burned for months. You will get to know how a civilization the world envied and admired as Vishwaguru was lost forever. And the barbarian who executed this barbaric act was none other than the Bhaktiyar. And what should hurt us more is we have named not only a railway station but also a city in his honor. Bhaktiyar destroyed Nalanda as part of his conquest over northern and eastern India, spreading his empire and the Islamic faith. Nalanda was destroyed largely to eliminate intellectual and spiritual traditions that competed with Islam. Now let's look about the glorious history of Nalanda. Among the Buddhist monasteries of the late Gupta period, none can become so famous of that Nalanda in Magad. Nalanda University was one of the world's most sacred and advanced learning centers for 600 years. It was located near the city of Rajagriha, now Rajgir, about 90 kilometers southeast of Patliputra, now known as Patna, operating from 427 to 1197 CE. It was renowned alike for the magnificence of its establishment and the intellectual as well as the moral preeminence of the inmates. Owing its foundation to 6 successive generations of Gupta kings, it housed a population of several thousands who were maintained out of the revenues of 100 or more villages specially endowed for its upkeep. The residents monks were esteemed not only for their learning but also for their high character. So much so that they were looked up as the idealistic models all over India. Because of its fame, Nalanda attracted students from abroad, but so strict was the examination test that only 2 or 3 out of the 10 succeeded in getting admission to Nalanda. The monks spent their time wholly on study and debates, and the monastery had a long line of distinguished alumni to its credit. The subjects of study which embrace various branches of sacred and secular learning, extending from the 4 Vedas and Itihas Purana down to snake charms and the arts of singing, dancing, and even knowledge of lubricants and ointments. The records of Gupta age prove that the 14 Vidyas were regarded as not being beyond the achievements of learned Brahmins. The accounts of the Chinese Buddhist pilgrims in the 7th century threw valuable light upon the curricula of studies. In the journal account of the then Bharat, children were introduced in their early years to a group of 5 sciences, namely the science of sound or grammar, the science of arts and crafts, the science of internal, the science of reasoning, and the science of medicine. In the course of studies, sketch above, evidently meant for the higher intellectual classes, appears to be sufficiently comprehensive. It was not less so for the agriculture and mercantile class. A different course of study was prescribed for them even in early period, like the Vaishya was to have a knowledge of the value of gems, pearls, corals, metals, clothes, perfumes, and condiments, of the manner of sowing seeds and qualities of soils, of weights and measures, of the varieties of merchandise and the probable profit and loss in traffic, and servants. The list further talks of knowledge of writing and arithmetic as well, as coins, dates, and deposits, examination of houses of elephants and horses, and so on and so forth. This was Nalanda as recorded in OST. Jai Hind. Now, it would be improper if I don't talk on Kalidas after talking on the excellence of Nalanda and Takshashila, the advanced centers of learning. Brothers and sisters, Kalidas was the most brilliant luminary in the literary firmament of the Gupta age who had shed luster on the whole of Sanskrit literature. He is by common consent the greatest poet and dramatist that ever lived in India, and his works have enjoyed a high reputation and popularity through the ages. He is said to be one of the 9 learned made 9 jewels who graced the court of King Vikramaditya. The theory that Kalidas flourished in the Gupta age is now an accepted fact and that can be supported by various arguments. Kalidas was a pious Brahmin of Ujjain and a liberal Shaiva by belief who had acquired a wide knowledge in various branches of learning. His versatile genius, his modesty, not without a due sense of self-respect, and his poetic talent and study of Natya Shastra are very well reflected in his works. The best known works of Kalidasa is his drama Shakuntal. The play by common consent is one of the best in the literature of the world. This play is based on the story of Shakuntala as found in Mahabharata, but he has breathed quite a new and viral spirit into it. The curse of the wrathful Durvasa, the loss of the ring, the scene of the fisherman, and the concluding portion of the play, which charm the audience by creating an atmosphere of suspense and relief, are the products of Kalidas' genius. Before the Shakuntal, Kalidas had composed 2 plays, the Malavika Agnimitra and Vikramo Varshya. The former is a court comedy wherein King Agnimitra falls in love with a maid in the service of one of his queens, and in spite of repeated obstacles put by the queen, at last succeeds in his love project. The Vikrama Varshya is a fairy tale of the love of celestial triumph and a mortal. Kalidasa's plays and poetry are primarily based on Vedas, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Puranas. Kalidas' genius shone with equal brilliance both in drama and in poetry. His 2 Mahakavyas, Raghuvamsha and Kumar Sambhava, and the lyrical poem Meghdut are universally regarded as gems of Sanskrit poetry. The Kumar Sambhava tells us the story of the birth of Kumar, the son of Shiva and Parvati, who led the celestial forces and vanquished the demon Taraka. In the Raghuvamsha, the poet has set the onerous task of describing the varied incidents in the lives of several monarchs. The Mahakavya, which is based on the Ramayana and some Purana, described in all 30 kings, among whom Raghu appears to be singularly fortunate in not only having illustrious ancestors but also illustrious descendants for at least 3 immediate successors. The Meghdut is however among the most fascinating little poems that ever came to be written in Sanskrit. In a little over 100 verses, the poet has displayed the vitality and versatility of his poetic genius. An imaginary yaksha, separated from the beloved through his master's curse and maddened with pangs of separation at the sight of a crowd, requests this crowd to carry his message and describes in detail the path it should follow and the various places of interest that it would traverse. Kalidas, a classical Sanskrit author is considered ancient India's greatest poet and playwright. Both in drama and poetry, Kalidas stands not only unsurpassed but also remained unrivaled. Thank you. Jai Hind.